Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are watching from. We want to say thank you so much for joining us for our first series of the route optimization for oil and gas. We're so excited to bring you some really cool technology, and I wanted to give a quick introduction of myself. So my name is Ruthie Senanayakar, and I will be the moderator for our webinar. I work at Blueprint Technologies, and I work in the events and marketing department. And if you are looking for a recording of this afterward, we will be posting it on all of our social media platforms. So be sure to be following us on there. You can also email us at info@bpcs.com. And if you have any questions following this webinar. If you have not heard about Blueprint, we are a technology solutions company that bridges the gap between solutions and really kicking it off with any team member. We're so excited to go ahead with this webinar, and I'm going to have two of our presenters, first Andrew Redman and then Don Lukasak, give us a quick introduction about themselves and what they do here at Blueprint. So Andrew, can you kick it off and give us a quick introduction?
Yeah, sure thing. Hey everyone, I'm Andrew Redman, and like Ruthie said, I work here at Blueprint, and I've been working as a software developer for the last 20 plus years. Had lots of experience in Power Apps. Been working specifically in Power Apps for about the last 5 years with all kinds of different use cases. And so yeah, I'm really excited to kind of show you some of the stuff that's new with their geospatial features.
Excellent. And Don?
Awesome. I'm Don Lukasak. I'm with Blueprint Technologies. I'm in the business development role. I've been in technology for over 30 years, and the majority of that career has been spent in energy, both upstream, downstream, midstream. Also, I have a background in manufacturing and retail. So I'm glad to be part of this, and we have an awesome host.
Thank you so much. We're so excited to get this kicked off. I do want to let anyone know if you have questions throughout this event, we want to make sure we're answering them live for you. So any questions can be added in the Q&A section that should be just on the bottom of your Zoom screen. Simply click on that. You can submit it with your name, or you can submit it anonymously if you like. So don't be shy, add in your questions there. We will answer them throughout, and then we'll also save some time for afterward as well. But yeah, I think we're ready to go. So Andrew, if you want to kick us off.
Yeah, yep, sure thing. So just one real quick thing. So when I try to start my video, it won't let me. So not that you need to look at me or anything, but I don't know if that's something that we can switch. But in the meantime, I'll just go ahead and get started. And just one other thing, as we're going through kind of the demo and just what I'm talking about, if anyone has questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and Ruthie's going to help me kind of monitor that. So, if a question comes up, she can interrupt me in the middle of what we're talking about, and I can kind of address those questions as they come up. But yeah, so like I said earlier, been working in Power Apps for about the last 5 years. Worked with multiple different projects, specifically oil and gas related. I've helped build some apps around routing by exception, operating by exception, some HR specific apps to allow operators to put in their time for cost allocations. As to like how much time I'm spending on a particular site or something like that. And really kind of what we want to show today is just some of the new features, specifically the geospatial features within Power Apps. I've got a couple of, 2 different screens I want to show with some native controls that are built into the actual application and that are built into Power Apps, the framework as it sets. And then, and just using those. Like, so you can do a couple of things where you don't have to really rely on any external services. And then I want to show you a different screen where if you want or need additional information, you can go out and actually get some additional information and supplement the native controls with that information to really do some even cooler things. So first of all, kind of want to start out that obviously this is just a demo with some using some geospatial routing type features. There's a lot more to it that would probably need to apply to your specific use cases, right? So, I mean, obviously there's business logic, whatever your safety protocols are, where your operator or employee or personnel skill sets live. We want to maybe pull in some of that data to do some of the things that you might be thinking of. How to determine what is priority, like how do we take an action on something? I mean, do we do something in real time? Do we do something, it can wait until tomorrow? Obviously this is just technology that kind of opens that door that allows you to start doing some of that stuff. But, really, once you start to get your data into it and we start to look at it as from a holistic perspective, that's when, it really can get really, really powerful. So like I said, the demo today, we're going to be demoing some Starbucks locations in the Seattle area. So that's kind of our data set that we're going to be using. But before we get started, I do have to call out a couple of prerequisites that are required before you can start using the geospatial features. So very first thing is that you have to enable geospatial features on your environment. So when you get into your, so if you, after this webinar or you're interested and you want to try to do this, you have to go into the admin portal for the Power Platform or for Power Apps, and you have to enable the geospatial services. And that's under the features area of your, as an admin, you can go and turn this on. Now, once you click this and turn this on, notice that it's telling you have to agree with the terms and services. So here are the terms and services that you'll have to agree to. And it, basically you can read through this, and if you agree, you can mark it as agree, get that enabled. So that'll get you started. And then depending upon your environment, your Office 365 environment, you may have some data loss prevention or DLP policies in place that potentially could prohibit you from using these. So you need to make sure to work with an admin to get those things turned off and then or adjusted so that you would be able to use these features. And then the very last thing is one of the things I've noticed as users start to use your apps that you create with geospatial features, they will need to be at least a basic user in the environment in order to not see a kind of I'll call it an annoying message that says something about geospatial features are not enabled or something like that in the actual browser. So anyway, now that we've kind of got that out of the way, let's start looking. Take a look at the demo. So like I said, the first thing, there we go. Okay. So like I said, we have two main kind of use cases. The first one, we're going to start adding some addresses to a map and kind of show you what that can look like. And so the first thing that you'll notice on this screen is that we have an address input control and an interactive map. The address input control, and these are the native controls that Power Apps will turn on, will become live for you once you enable the geospatial features. And so the address component lets you see dynamic address suggestions as you type using a fuzzy matching logic. It suggests multiple potential addresses that match what you're typing in. You can select it, as normal address picker, you would think would work. And then the map will easily let you use mapping capabilities inside of your Canvas app to show or view physical location or physical positioning of particular objects. So that's kind of the two main controls. And so, like I said, what we're going to do right now is this page again is all native app controls. There's no service layer being called, nothing like that. We're just using the controls as they like. So I'm going to add, like I said, I'm going to add 4 or 5 Starbucks locations in the Seattle area, and so you can kind of see how. I'm not a good typer and talker at the same time, but see kind of how this is working. So this is the first one that I'm going to add. Notice that as soon as I selected it, so it's already geocoded that particular location. So if you need that information, the latitude and longitude, you can get it right now. So again, we're going to add this, and as you see, it'll start adding things to the map. So let's add a few more. And then 3 more. Oh, and I wanted to say, as you're typing this in, or as I'm typing it in, you can limit the results that you're getting to two particular countries. And for what we're doing, we've limited it to US, but there are other countries involved in or available for you to use. Let's see, yeah, there we are. And you can also, I'm going to stop talking and typing at the same time. That I'm really struggling here. Hang on a second, almost done. Okay, I think that's the last one. Okay, so yeah, what I was trying to say is, as you're typing this in, there's some options available with the input control. So you can tell it country set. So you can give it a list of countries, like maybe you only concerned about US and Canada addresses. You can put that in the options in the configuration and only have it list US and Canadian addresses. Yeah, for our purposes, I've set it up to be US only. And then you can also modify things like how many search results do you show up. As you noticed, I had 4. That's just what it defaulted to. That's what I chose. And then you can also pick a radius, like a location radius based on a particular latitude and longitude, to say, I want to use priority around this particular radius. And so my radius just happens to be the Seattle area. So it should, choose those over some that may be outside of that radius. So just a few things that I wanted to kind of point out. And then as I put them on the map, notice that it put them in the order in which I added it. Now, obviously there's no magic to that, right? As you add it into the list, it's just putting it in the order. And just some other features, as you click on it, this is a custom pop-up. So you can do some customizations to this particular thing. And if you wanted to do something even more elaborate, you can actually get access to the selected area of the map, to where as you select a given point of interest, you can display a message or do something like that. So just again, kind of wanting to go over some of the options that you can use. So we've got the addresses on the map. It kind of put them in the order that we added them, which is, it's great. So now, once we have that, what we can do is turn on routing. So the routing feature is an option that you can turn on and off inside of this new control. And so I basically just added a toggle to it, so you can turn it on and off for our particular example. And so as soon as I do that, notice that it put get rid of this real fast. Notice that it started to draw some lines. And so this is the path that it would take you if you were going from 1 to 5. And then if you notice up here in the upper left-hand corner, you can see that it's giving me the duration and the distance, the total miles and the total distance. Now, also, one of the neat things that Azure Maps can do, that the geospatial map will allow you to do, is you can select between car and truck. So if you were watching the duration and the miles, when I change this to car, it'll actually change based on the average path that the car would take. And potentially there may be roads. I know there's roads like in the Northeast, depending upon the class of a vehicle that you're using, that you can't go down. Let's say with a semi truck as opposed to a car. So it would actually take some of those things into account in the duration and the mileage. So that's kind of interesting as well. So that's kind of the basics of all the demoing that I wanted to do on this. Again, just the native control screen. We didn't do anything super complicated. We just took addresses, put them on a map manually, right? And then we showed what the routing capabilities could do. So let's kind of look at that in a different way and see what we can do if we're willing to make some service calls to potentially some other APIs. So let's go and look at this show travel time details. So if you'll notice, one of the main differences here is the very first thing that it's doing is it's going out to a SharePoint list and it's pulling all of those addresses that I added manually from the previous screen. And so it's putting them on the map. You can see that through these green locations. And so I have a couple of different things on this screen. One in particular, and this is to kind of show you can supplement the data that's coming back from your service calls with some cost numbers or anything like that that you want to do. So for our example, I'm going to say, okay, I want to make this. What we're going to do here is we're going to say, well, let's add an address that we want to get the distance from this address to any of these 6 locations. So we're going to add. So here's the address. Let me add that real fast. Okay, and so from this address, what we're going to do is we're going to go and we're going to make a service call out to Azure Maps to their one of their routing APIs to get the distance from this address to all of these addresses that we're passing into it. So this is going to take a few seconds to do. For the sake of the demo, I'm pulling back every piece of information because I want to show a couple of additional things here that I didn't really have before. So this will take just a couple of seconds to do, and obviously we could optimize this to be much quicker. But for the sake of the demo, I wanted to make sure it was getting enough information where I could kind of show you all the different capabilities. So like I said, we put this 49 cents a mile in here so that with the data that it comes back, it can actually calculate based on the number of miles you are away from each of these locations from this one main address, which is our point of interest over here on the map. Hopefully you can see my cursor, but it's over here on the kind of the middle, the middle on the left-hand side of the map. All of these different Starbucks locations from this one point, and then you can add a cost or some kind of other calculation to it. You can certainly order this by, well, I want to get the one that's furthest away first. So you can order it by distance or the closest. You can also order it by duration. If you'll notice that this does actually change because it's using the routing to where, this one is actually 31 miles away, but the duration is actually shorter than the one that is 27 miles away. Again, hopefully you can see my cursor. I'm not sure if you can or not, but hopefully this highlighting will help. But so you can kind of see that. And so then as you notice, as I was clicking through here, it's actually going to show you on the map. It will show you how it would route you to that particular location. Again, that's just one of the features of the map. And so kind of the last thing I wanted to show that, I kind of was talking earlier about, I'm pulling back a lot of information. Well, one of the information points that I'm getting is turn-by-turn directions. So, if you want to, for whatever reason, say, I need to go to a particular location and I want to send the turn-by-turn to someone, or I want that to show up on the screen. For the demo purposes, I just put it down here because I didn't want to cover up any of the main real estate, but you can certainly make it take over the screen or whatever that you want. And so I'm going to scroll down here so you can kind of see the end, because from the start these destinations look the same. But as you click through here, notice the map changes to show you the route, and the turn-by-turn instruction or turn-by-turn directions change as well. So that's kind of the demo in a nutshell. Like I said, just wanted to do real quick to kind of show you what's possible, and then we can kind of go into some of the use cases that we've seen in the oil and gas space, to where we think this technology could be beneficial. And so and again, I'll preface that by saying, obviously, in all of the use cases that we're going to talk about, you would need to supplement this with your particular data. So whether that data, wherever it is stored in a SharePoint list, stored in a database, whatever it would be, you would have to take that and then munge it together with this data in order to make good decisions on it. But one of the things that we thought through would be you could certainly use the duration metrics that you get for distance and duration to add some sort of algorithm to add a cost element to it, to where you could essentially put on a screen, on a phone screen for a user, you could take their traveling distance and mileage and use that into some sort of a priority notification list that would say, look, I want you to do this thing first. I want you to do this thing second. And you could start weighing in things that you might not have been able to before using the distance and the duration of something like this. And then you can visualize it, right? So that's the other really nice feature is, and that's what I wanted to show here, is you can actually visualize what that would look like, to the user on their screen. So obviously it'll show you the distance and duration, from location to location. So, let's say you're on location or you have a list of employees or a collection of employees, and these are employees and they're not, maybe these are their trucks that are out in the field. These aren't Starbucks locations, let's say, and you want to know, well, I need to get to, a certain person or their vehicle. So you could, kind of use something like this to very quickly visualize what would that look like? How could I, how would I get to them? Give me what are the turn-by-turn instructions, something like that. That could also be used for potentially a new location that comes into your, all of your other assets. You could have some new locations that, maybe the operators aren't as familiar with. And so kind of could give them directions and show on a map how to get from their location to the next location, or new employees, right? So maybe new employees wouldn't know exactly what that route would look like to get from point A to point B. So again, just so that you could visualize this. Another thing that you can do with some of this information, that we've seen is that you can actually take and as you're driving. So one of the features, we didn't necessarily show this, but inside of Power Apps, it certainly contains your geospatial information of where you are. If you allow it to, it will track where your phone is. So you can have it, go with you as you go about your day. And as you spend a certain amount of time on a particular site, it can start tracking that to say, I was on this site for, X amount of time, so that you don't have to go back and at the end of the day, like say if you're doing time tracking or something like that. So you wouldn't necessarily have to go back and, write that down or enter that into a system. It could be automated from a tool, something like this. And, then the last thing I was kind of thinking through, and, some of the use cases that we've seen, would be for some sort of an alerting mechanism. So let's say you had some sort of a system that would track alerts, whether that be, sites are down or, something occurred at a given site. Well, you could actually, send that information into your Power App in a list similar to this, to where, that comes up to the top of a list and says, we have an alert here at 340 228th Avenue Northeast, and we need to send somebody out there. Very quickly you can kind of get, well, this is the duration and the distance away from that, and how long it would take someone to get there. Or maybe you can even enter addresses and redo that calculation to see what that would be. I don't know if the sensors that are on employees or sensors that are located in the field for compressor goes down, something like that, to where you could kind of take some of that data and then put it together with some of this routing data to get you, hey, I need to know where that is and how to get there and how long that's going to take, and all of that type of information. And so again, like I said, obviously this isn't all of the use cases. It's just some of the things that hopefully this opens the door to some new things that you didn't maybe think were available via Power Apps that you could potentially do now. So anyway, that's kind of the demo and all the things that I wanted to talk about. I think I talked for quite a bit there. So if you guys have any questions or anything that you want to dig into further, would love to do that.
Thank you so much, Andrew. And Dawn, I know you had some ideas of how these use cases play out. So I'd love to hear your point of view. You have a great background in oil and gas. So can you share some of your thoughts on this?
Sure, Andrew. One of the things I was thinking about throughout this process, And thanks for the presentation. I thought you did an excellent job. Was not only the physical location of assets today, but a lot of equipment is in the field, and that equipment is shared among different groups. And if that equipment was tagged to make it location aware, then the people who are routing would know where the nearest equipment is to go pick up. And then also, I thought it'd be great is if you had that tagging ability, and if that item was moving without a recognized vehicle, maybe putting it in tow, that might flag a condition that needs to be reported. So what do you think about that, Andrew?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's one of the I think one of the really good examples of how this would be beneficial is, really to me the value is, kind of in building, I don't know if they call them hybrid apps, but an app that you take where you have this easy to get into users' hands and quickly, like a framework like Power Apps, and then you're taking some of that data that I know I have all of my vehicles in. Name your favorite GPS system that you guys have. I'm sure that you're using, right? Let's take some of that data and get it on the screen so that we can decide things like, well, I know that these assets are these are batteries. These batteries should not be moving. Why are these batteries moving? Well, maybe somebody's stealing them, right? And so if a battery moves, maybe you alert, right? Or to your point, yeah, this is a trailer. This should not be moving without another asset that's moving with it, i.e. a truck, right? So yeah, absolutely. I think that's certainly possible.
Yeah, and also that a field worker may be working in the field. They know a job is going to be in another location tomorrow, and so if you've got a field worker that is out in that site, they might as well bring that trailer back and drop it off at a closer location. That might save 2 or 3 hours of route time that you could have snagged and brought in earlier. So I think these are all great use cases, and Andy, I think one thing you're mentioning is the ability to understand the data, be able to commingle data, be able to do some analytics, advanced analytics with that data, and also then maybe be looking to being predictive when you have some historical data you can start drawing upon to know that when certain things are going on in the field, that there may be opportunity to look at, kind of forward looking.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that I meant to talk about for just a second was what this is using is, again, like I said, it's using an Azure Maps endpoint, which is just a service that you would purchase via Azure, but it can use really any service. And one of the endpoints that it has is it has a ability to take a list of values and actually put them in route order that would be optimized from a routing perspective. So kind of on the first screen, we did that, what I'm going to say manually, because we knew what the route was going to be. So we put the locations in order. But there's nothing to say you couldn't say, well, here's a list of all the pickups or the drop-offs that I need to do today, and I want those to be in the order of what would be the most optimal for me at the particular time that I'm going to be making those pickups or drop-offs. And you can absolutely push that into an API. Like I said, inside of this route optimization API, or maybe you have your own route optimization API, right? It really doesn't matter. You're just taking that data from that service, you're conforming it to what it's expecting here, which is all I'm doing, and then you're putting it on a map and you're able to number it and show it. So, really, like I said, to me, that's really where the huge gains are, is to be able to take all this ancillary data that you have and get it together so that it makes sense from a visual perspective. So yeah, I think that's definitely a great positive for it.
And another item I was thinking about, Andrew, is weather. Weather affects so many different roads, especially in oil, an oil field area. And being able to flag known issues with bridges or roads, or think about a road that conditionally gets really bad during rainy weather. And if you knew your weather and you could overlay it into your routes, you could know that, maybe I should be, proactive and do something at that site because, the weather conditions are going to come to make the tasks more hazardous, by waiting towards the end of the week. So now I can affect my schedule in a positive way because not only do I know my routes and my behaviors and my equipment locations, but also I could use weather data to leverage against it as well. I could also use my supply chain data to be able to integrate and understand my routing capabilities and where I should be able to have things. So I think there's a lot of potential here. And I think, it's coming up with that base use case, standing up an MVP, proving out the design for the business, looking at the business case, and then being able to extrapolate the savings or the benefits to the organization. And then this is an area that we see very frequently today, where we can iterate on an idea and continue to increase the value as the organization starts doing more asset tags, or starts investing more in data, or starts being more proactive.
And
Yep.
we actually had a question come in that says, Andrew or Dawn, can you highlight some specific field service scenarios where this might be applied for well sites?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, oh, go ahead, Don.
No, so I can think of several for well sites, so just the coordination of work for a well site, just the activity of maintenance on a well site. We talked about the weather, making sure that the work is scheduled in a certain way, making sure that there's more than one well site that maybe needs work in the same day, looking at your supply chain and saying, well, if there's things I need to replace based on the data that I'm receiving off the field, maybe it helps me be more productive about putting that gear on the truck, so that when I'm doing maintenance in one area, maybe I'm 2 miles from the next one that needs to be maintained, and it helps me be more proactive. So it cuts down my number of routes into that area, and I get to be more productive.
Yeah, and just to kind of narrow in on that as well, I mean, one of the apps that I've kind of worked on in the past, this was prior to some of this technology, we were able to use Power Apps to do some things specifically for wells, to where hey, this well goes down. We were getting those services from the advanced analytics team, and we were able to put that into a list so that an operator or something a field service folks could look at it and say, hey, we know here's the priority based on kind of what the advanced analytics team had put together, but we didn't have this capability to be able to say, and we can show it to you on a map where it is, and we can actually draw a line on the map as to from your location how you would get there. And so to me, I think that's kind of the added benefit of some of these geospatial services, that you can take that data and then even add the distance, right? So if you could, let's think about, you have some algorithms in place today that tell you, I don't want to run my normal route. I want to run, what my company considers to be the most important thing to get first. Well, imagine that you could add in, mileage or duration into that calculation. That would even be beneficial even more, because it's that additional piece of data to say, well, it costs us this much for it to be down. Well, what if I have 8 things that are down, and one is 40 miles away from the other, and it's not going to determine, and if I don't have distance, it's not going to determine which one of those, how would you do that in the correct order. So again, information like this just helps narrow that gap, so that you can do some things that would be beneficial. Hopefully that answered your question. If it didn't, we can certainly talk some more.
Andrea, I was thinking about too, another thing was training. It's so important today when people go to a site, that they have the proper training to be on that site, to service whatever they're servicing, to make sure they're following the right protocols of safety. So again, one of those areas where, geofencing, understanding, what the credentials are of the people who are going on site to service the gear, making sure that all those people who are out there are trained and safe. And what's interesting is that a lot of times these things like tagging your equipment and being able to know if something's moving without you moving it, those things, along with the training, these things often can result in discounts with the insurance providers, because you have means. It's kind of like having an alarm for your house. You get a discount with your insurance provider because you're providing a layer of protection that doesn't exist otherwise, right? Like a low jack for your vehicle, right?
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. Exactly. And you kind of talked about geofencing type things. Now, that's not necessarily an available option out of the box, but you can actually draw polygons and select things based on what you're drawing on the map. And as I see how Microsoft is kind of moving this technology forward, I absolutely think that will be part of it at some point. And like I said, this is relatively new, some of these geospatial features. And I think one of the things I was looking at, even just like 4 or 5 months ago, we weren't able to actually draw the line. Like we couldn't say, I want to go from point 1 to point 2 and actually show the draw on the map. And so that's a new feature that has been added just in those last 4 months. So I know that they definitely have roadmaps of what they're going to be working on as far as, as Microsoft releases new options to this. But it certainly doesn't, again, the nice thing is you can always supplement this with your own data or some other services that you have or that you've purchased already. You can get that data and kind of, put it together. So absolutely.
Yeah, the thing I was thinking too is that, a lot of times, oilfield services organizations, they're servicing a lot of clients. The provider themselves may be doing a lot of work in that area. And if you look at the historical data and you look at the movement and you track that over time, an organization might be able to ascertain that if they put a location someplace where it's frequently traveled, that they may be able to reduce their cost by putting a hub in place and hubbing out of that one location versus what their patterns have been over time. And you'd only see that if you track the data over time and you did the correlation and you made a business decision to implement something maybe closer.
Yeah, for sure. I can totally see that as well. Yeah, taking that data and showing it on a map as to, hey, this is what's happening. I saw something several years ago where some alerts came in through the GPS provider for a fleet, and some of those alerts came in, and with something like this, you could actually take that data and project it and put it on the map and say, well, from this location to this location, here are all the details of that trip. From this location to this location, here are all the details of that trip, right? And so, that would be kind of an interesting use case, as I'm just kind of thinking off the top of my head right now. I know we were doing that, but again, the beauty here, in my opinion, the kind of like what you were saying about, getting in and getting the MVP, to me, that's kind of the power of Power Apps. It enables you to really get something out there, get something in the user's hands so that they can start using it and actually give you feedback to say, yeah, this is great. Could we do maybe this, and this? Or, no, this is terrible. You kind of missed the boat. Let's try this. Well, I mean, in the path where it's taking you months to get that stuff rolled out, that's really, inefficient. But when you're talking about taking you weeks to do, and that was one thing I was going to mention. I mean, these two screens right here, I literally did in about a day. So it's not like a large lift to get functionality like this up and running in a very, very quick turnaround time. And now that I've done it once, right, and it's the other nice thing, it's like, okay, learning the controls is kind of part of that one day worth of work. Doing it now, knowing what I know, I'm sure I can do it in probably half the time. It would be relatively straightforward to build this and recreate this very, very quickly.
So Andy, what you're saying is that, very easy for an organization to stand up a proof of value, test out a small business case, gain some value from that basis, and then iterate on it, gain additional value, and then grow as your company grows and grow as you get more additional sensors and you can get additional layer on. And what's really great is that, Blueprint not only can help sit down and create that starting point with you and understand where you're at and what it would take to get that initial MVP, they can also show you the proper way to iterate and to go after those value propositions, and then talk about the art of possible. You mentioned about where the technology is going. You know, that part of it is really important to know where you're at, where you're going, and where the future lies. And so I think bringing it all together could be very beneficial.
Yep, I totally agree.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for all of your insights. This has been extremely insightful. I do want to let everyone know that we do plan on hosting another webinar. This webinar will be next month. So just keep an eye out on our socials for whenever we post that. Should be soon. This second webinar will be focusing on a different industry. We're going to be focusing on the retail area. As you can see, you know, this technology can be transferable among so many different industries. So we're going to bring up some use cases, bring in people who are really focused on the retail area to give you some really, really cool tips and insights just like this one. Again, we will be posting this on our social media pages, and I will also be emailing out the recording of this. So just keep an eye out for that. I just want to say thank you to everyone for joining. Thank you to Andrew and Dawn for presenting and sharing all of these great information. If you would like to learn more about how Blueprint can make a huge impact on your digital transformation journey, feel free to email us at info@bpcs.com, and we look forward to continuing this conversation. Thank you, everyone, and have an awesome rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you.